Good afternoon. I'm Steve McKeand with the Cooperative Tree Improvement Program at NC State University, and we're here at the Arrowhead Breeding Center in central Georgia, operated by the Georgia Forestry Commission. And in fact, you can hear in the background the lift trucks operating. We're right smack dab in the middle of breeding season. And we're also right smack dab in the middle of grafting season. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about at this experimental orchard that we're establishing. And a little bit of discussion about the art and science of grafting. Been used for centuries to propagate trees and ornamental plants, and we use it in our Loblolly pine breeding program. And what we do is we graft onto healthy, vigorous rootstock like here, and you can see in the background we've done many grafts so far this year, and the rootstock are just beautiful. Chuck and Austin have done a great job getting them up and growing, and you can see this one is about 5 feet tall. Most of them are anywhere between 3 and 5 feet, 6 feet in height. Healthy, vigorous rootstock, and that's what's key to getting good grafting success, and getting them up to size. And these were planted about 16 or 17 months ago and just perfect for grafting. And what I'm going to do today is what we call a cleft graft, okay? And the cleft graft is basically taking the scion wood or grafting wood off of a select tree and placing it into the top of the rootstock. And to get this ready, I'm going to make the graft right here. What I like to do first is remove some of the competing branches, because this healthy, vigorous rootstock, if you leave it, it will overtake the more mature scion material or grafting wood. And so what we like to do is get rid of that one stem there that was a little bit of a fork, and then I'll come in and remove these branches here because I don't want them overtaking them. These lower branches, just clip the top off. Very important to leave as much foliage as possible because we don't want to be reducing the photosynthate on the tree, but we don't want them competing with the scion wood. And what I'm doing now is just stripping the needles off, down 4, 5, 6 inches in length, something like that. Get those out of the way, and I'm going to clip the top off, and that's where I'm going to put the graft, right there in the top. And again, it's called a cleft graft. Let me reach into my cooler here and get out a piece of scion wood that's been in there on ice packs, and you can see nice, big, healthy, vigorous buds collected, I think, 3 days ago. Clip off the end of it here, make it again about 3 inches long. I like to make my cut anywhere from 2 to 3 inches long, something in the neighborhood of maybe 5 to 8 centimeters in length, and I'll put that right into the top there. Basically, I'm putting new roots on this select material. And by the way, to prevent desiccation, and you'll hear me talk about preventing desiccation many times, is the bud here was actually dipped in wax back in the lab. It's paraffin at about 190 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, about 95 degrees Celsius or so. Very quickly dip it in there, and we do that just to seal up the bud to prevent desiccation. So I've got my scion wood ready, I've got my rootstock ready. I'll lay the clippers down there on the cooler and get out my very sharp grafting knife. Very critical to have a good sharp knife to make a good clean cut through the cambium to make sure you're not ripping and tearing a lot of cells. You want to make a nice straight sharp cut. So what I'll do is I'll lay the scion wood down there so you can see the cut on the rootstock. Put my knife there, and you can see I've got it under complete control. I'm not just pushing aimlessly or carelessly. I'm pushing with my left thumb. I've got the knife under complete control of my right hand, and again, make about a 2 or 3 inch cut. Take this very important piece of equipment, a clothespin, and close it up to prevent desiccation. Get my scion wood here, and let me hold it so you can watch the cut. Make sure I get it nice and straight cut. Don't gouge. A nice straight long cut, 2 or 3 inches, again 5 to maybe 8 centimeters in length. And there's the exposed cambium tissue there. And then come on the other side and again make a long narrow V or wedge, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm pulling the scion wood. I'm not pulling the knife to me because I don't want that sharp knife to come into my body. Okay, do a little whittling to get a nice point there at the end, and put the knife back in the sheath again because it is very sharp and a bit dangerous. Open up the slit on the rootstock, insert the scion wood to make sure the top of the cut is even with the top of the cut of the rootstock. Close it up with the clothespin and make sure one of the sides matches. The other side is close, but if you have one side matching, that's really critical. Okay, and then I'm reach into my nail apron and pull out a couple of grafting rubbers. I almost always need at least 2 grafting rubbers. And these are basically rubber bands coated with a bit of talcum powder, and that helps them slide a little bit and not stick to each other. Start below the cut, pull it tight, and overlap those cuts as much as possible. Okay, and what I'm doing is pulling it rather taut to prevent desiccation, but also to bring the 2 cambia layers together in intimate contact. Because what will start happening is callus tissue will develop, and then the cambia will actually intermix, and you'll get new xylem and phloem. So what I'm doing is overlapping this. Okay, and as I said, I almost always need 2 grafting rubbers. Take off the clothespin, put it on my vest so I'll know where it is on the next graft. Overlap the next graft rubber with the first one, and you can see I'm just pulling it tight, pulling the rootstock over the scion wood. And on this one I'm going to need a 3rd grafting rubber. That often happens. No sense in trying to save grafting rubbers. Take that, overlap it, take it around, and what I'll do now is put that through my left digit finger there and pull it out and cover it up, the last piece of rubber, and there it is. Okay? Now for a little bit of extra protection, we take parafilm. I got that in my nail apron also. Pieces of parafilm, and what it is, it's a laboratory sealant that they use to seal up all sorts of petri dishes and vessels in a lab. But it's a stretchable thermoplastic. It looks like wax paper, but it's actually stretchable. And I start at the bottom below the cut, pull it tight to make sure I seal it. Okay, and just keep wrapping and wrapping and wrapping. And then for the last few wraps, I make sure I pull it good and tight because I want it to stretch and really seal it up, again, to prevent desiccation. Okay, last little bit there, and that'll hold until in a few weeks when we come back and do the inventory. That'll actually degrade in the sunlight and you won't have to do any cutting or releasing at all. And that graft looks pretty good. It ought to be a successful graft. But one last thing is we always need to know what it is. I'm not going to remember in 6 or 8 weeks because I've made several hundred different grafts in here. So I've got a tag with the selection ID. I wrap it around the stem. It's just a simple aluminum tag with copper wire. Wrap it around 3 or 4 twists. Make sure the loop is as large as possible because we don't want to girdle the stem. And there it is. Should be a successful graft. Hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.